Chapter 33. The Kurgan was waiting in the shadows at the corner of the rooftop. He had seen the car arrive and had witnessed the first part of MacLeod's ascent up the fire escape, but he had lost the figure somewhere near to the top. It did not matter. There was very little doubt about the outcome. The Kurgan had fought over 1,000 battles since he had been born the son of a peasant farmer on the shores of the Caspian Sea over 3,000 years ago. He was the oldest of the Immortals, just a shade older than Ramirez would have been. The Kurgan had fought with Tartars, Cossacks, Huns, Vandals, Goths, Visigoths. Almost always he fought on the side of the barbarian. He preferred barbaric hordes to civilized armies because he hated treating war like a drawing room activity. War, in his opinion, should be a noisy, disorganized, chaotic affair, full of dust, blood, and routs. The Mongols, the Vikings, those were his kind of people. They enjoyed putting the fear of God, or rather the devil, into their enemies. The Europeans were always too neat in their wars, and the Americans had tended to follow that lead. He stared out over the city, seeing the dark areas amongst the light. That dark area within him, there since the beginning, that would soon be gone. The prize was within his grasp now. He had waited a long time for this day, this night. Revelations were about to take place. The Kurgan had many old memories that had hardened under the suns of many days. His first was from when he was 5 years old. His father, not wishing to feed him any more, had dashed his head against a stone and left him with a split skull for the wolves and bears. He had recovered, of course, within a few hours. He had followed his father's tracks along the edge of the hills to his camp. He waited until his father was asleep that night and then crept out and took one of the hot stones from the edge of the fire. He carried it in the fork of a twig, and it was still so hot that it burned through the bark. His father used to sleep with his mouth open because of a nasal blockage. The young Kurgan dropped the red-hot pebble into his father's mouth. The shepherd could not dislodge the stone. It burned into the soft flesh in his throat and stuck there, choking him to death. His son took his sheep down the hillside the next day, to the farm, and told his mother that a bear had attacked his father and killed him. When he was 12, he left home to join a group of bandits who used to prey on caravans crossing the steppes between India and the Mediterranean. He became proficient with the slingshot and would stand on an outcrop picking off individual members of the merchants' trains, thinning down their numbers before an all-out attack. At 25, his physical deterioration ceased and his bodily characteristics remained stable. He realized then that not only could he not be killed by a normal sword or arrow wound or by a blow, but that he would not grow old. The aging process had been arrested. Still, he had no idea of his full potential until he met a desert Arab, a Bedou, who claimed to know the secrets of him and his kind. The Arab told him what he was and said that he was not alone. There were others like him. Not many, but he was not unique. The Arab magician taught the Kurgan how to recognize other immortals and revealed that he too was a brother in immortality. He showed the Kurgan the way to the quickening, much in the way that Ramirez had taught MacLeod centuries later. He foretold of the gathering and prophesied that the Kurgan would be one of those present at the final battle. Once he had learned all the Arab knew, the Kurgan cut off the man's head while he slept. Then he burned the body. The only possession of the magician that the Kurgan retained was the scimitar that the man had kept by his side. Later in life, the Kurgan changed this weapon for the broadsword. Now the time had come. The Kurgan's thoughts were interrupted by a sound, a scraping of glass. He stood up and melted into the shadows of the scaffolding, which crisscrossed the light from the moon. He was ready. He saw MacLeod move out onto the rooftop. He called out softly, "MacLeod!" MacLeod turned, and the Kurgan could see the hard light in the other man's eyes. This was no mean adversary. He might have been a mere boy on the battlefield when the MacLeods fought the Frasers, but Ramirez had had a hand in his training since. The Spanish peacock had prepared him. He had also been through many fights since, had defeated Faisal. The Kurgan was not about to underestimate such a foe. "We meet at last, Highlander," MacLeod replied. "And both of us armed with our favourite weapons, for once." The Kurgan nodded. "That's as it should be." "Let's get to it then." The Kurgan stepped forward.